This is the Territory of Art. I'm Eric Bogosian. In this episode, we present Snake Bride by Marina Abramovic and Ulav.
The earth is small and blue. I am a little crack in it. From Confessions of the Great Wall by Huang Xian. At the beginning of the 70s, an Apollo mission had succeeded to land on the moon. When the first astronauts were standing on the moon and looked down to the Earth, they could see but one man-made construction, the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China is both one of the wonders of the world and an enigma. Its fascination is strong for those in the West as it is in the East, for nowhere else there is a work of such immense scale and ambition. In 1984, we had introduced an idea for a project to the Chinese Ministry of Culture in Peking. The idea was to walk the entire length of the Great Wall. Marina would start her journey at the easternmost reaches of the wall, the Shanhaiguan Pass on the Gulf of Bahai, the Yellow Sea. Myself, I would start the journey at the Jiayuguan Pass, the westernmost end of the wall in the Gobi Desert. Walking towards each other over a distance of more than 5,000 kilometers, most diverse landscapes, we would meet after approximately 1 year. The meeting then would signify a conjunction of complementary principles and the bridging of experiences. During the month of July and August 1986, we visited China for the first time. We wanted to undertake an individual journey along the Great Wall to carry out studies for our project. We set off to Shanhaiguan in the east to travel west from there. Following the course of the Great Wall means that once we had passed north of Peking, we were about to travel through the poorest regions in China. By name Inner Mongolia and Ningxia, both autonomous provinces, and finally Gansu province, which may be the least fertile, most rugged and deserted of all Chinese provinces. People live here still in burrows or most simple houses made out of mud. The Gobi Desert threatens man and all life with sandstorms and drought. Our journey from the eastern end to the western end of the Great Wall was 5,000 kilometers and took 6 weeks. Our common transportation were trains by which we would progress over the longest distances. We had made more than 24 stops along the wall and even so in the so-called forbidden cities. Once we left the train, all seemed to happen by chance. Other transportations we made use of were buses, trucks, jeeps, camels, donkeys, bicycles, and of course on foot. Beside our extensive walks on and along the wall, we have spent much time in trains, and for the curiosity or authenticity we have shared places with the Chinese in the so-called hard-seater compartments. The Chinese love traveling and literally inhabit the trains as if it were mobile homes. The environment is a sort of dirty, smelling, cozy communal place. The Chinese are great lovers of food, or better, they are upset about eating and do so most of the time. At the time we were with them, it was the watermelon season, and whole cargo trains could be seen transporting nothing but watermelons. The average of watermelons each of the Chinese passengers would take with him or her on the journey was between 3 and 8. Imagine the weight alone of such food supply. Because it was hot, the Chinese would eat and give away the whole day long pieces of watermelon. Only rarely one could see them drinking tea, which is presumably the main winter occupation. The mass in the train became undescribable. On the floor, tables, seats, the skin of melons piled up. The seed were spit in any direction, as they would spit continuously even without spitting out seed. The trains are powered by old steam locomotions, and because of the heat all windows are open. The black coal soot from the locomotion and the sand dust from the blowing topsoil along the railways created a particular patina to the whole. One becomes soon and easy part of the common. Once this is done, we were immobile, sitting, hanging, or lying on the hard seats, and were only receptive for the sounds enveloping us.
今天不出来，我要骂你出来。啊？哎，他跳不起，他高兴吗？给他叫他吃饭，高兴高兴好。我天天都不知道他怎么跳，咱们三个人都不知道。都饿坏了。
The second part of our sound recordings was made in the park of the Temple of Heaven in Peking. As our hotel by the same name was located just against the outer wall of the Temple of Heaven, we are taken out of sleep every morning for sunrise. The cause for that are birds, with voices so loud and beautiful that we could not ignore it. One morning we get up before sunrise and found our way into the park. We did not see birds. Instead, we saw elderly men carrying blue-covered bird cages. All these bird carriers walked in the same direction, so we followed. At the place with the less trees and the bright opening towards east, the men would hang the caves into trees, unveiling half of the blue covers, the half which face east. Once the first beam of the rising sun would hit the cage, the birds would start their concert with most spectacular voices. At that stage, the men walked around, moving stones and rocks in the grass to spot worms and the little bugs and offer them to their birdie. This would last for about 1 hour during sunrise and was repeated also during sunset. What is interesting about this cult really is that not so long ago, during the Cultural Revolution, it was ordered to kill all birds in the cities.
对对，有，这是有会。没大事了。来了，
你来了会儿了？
刚到这个。这个，这放这个。喂。我这个叫你看一下就罢了，哇，有点啥了，挺热的。我们这叫这声太小是吧？啊？中间儿，中间儿是不小了，声音不大，声音不大是吧？这是啥？就那个，还有一个，好了。哎，挂这多好。挂这好。我们这挂里是咋不下来？你怎么非得挂人呢？这你把我上挂。挂人可不行。这车上上了，这这。这是他那什么来？上是。他来了就让带孩子，孩子才上这。啊？孩子来了，你稍微等待点。孩子来了，我这现在练的那个，你小孩玩你。完了，我这上我该叫他叫。啊？我这错了。 那个你在那里边很多，对吧？我不知道吧？那会觉得你这个讲说过来，因为他们说我这个不可以，我从哪说？我小孩应该是。早来的吧？看见老头们骑着车那些，就给那个忽悠的，跟那马路旁边那个吵，小车都是兜着找啊，兜着找啊，我们是哪儿了？就那个六里屯知道吧？六里屯往什么？往东西。那里边哈。我们这个上哪去的？就像豆腐庄哈似的，都我不能我开去，我开远了，
Snake Bride by Marina Abramovic and Ulav. The program is a co-production of MoCA and the Albert and Vera List Gallery at MIT. The executive producer for the Territory of Art is Julie Lazar. Senior producer, Steve Rath, Murray Street Enterprise. Production manager, Steve Profit. Mastering engineer and technical consultant, Chris Solom. Series theme music by Bob Telson. Production facilities provided by 52nd Street and KUSC, Los Angeles. Funds for the Territory of Art were provided by the Polaroid Corporation on the occasion of its 50th anniversary, the Rockefeller Foundation, the American Public Radio Program Fund with the assistance of the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts. The Territory of Art is a production of MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Los Angeles, which is solely responsible for its content. For cassette copies of the program or additional information, write MoCA Radio, 250 South Grand Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90012. Join us next time for an encounter with imagination in John O'Keefe's Penny's Ghost on The Territory of Art. I'm Eric Bogosian.
This is the American Public Radio Network.
This is the Territory of Art. I'm Eric Bogosian. In this episode, we present Journey Without Straps, written by Colin Gardner.
Hello, I'm Decameron Book. Welcome to Appropriate Theater. Last week, if you remember, we looked in on rehearsals for Stephen Wilder's daring resetting of Euripides' Trojan Women in a Southern California sorority. Today, Los Angeles performance artist Richard Myatt, well known for his touring one-man show, The Life and Loves of Friedrich Nietzsche, explores that so typically English literary genre, the railway adventure, through Graham Greene's celebrated entertainment, Orient Express. Published in 1932, the book was made into a film 2 years later by 20th Century Fox, a rather disappointing effort starring Norman Foster and Heather Angel. The story centers upon, appropriately enough, Carlton Myatt, an English businessman caught up in international intrigue while traveling the Orient Express to Istanbul. While researching the novel, a hard-up Greene couldn't afford to make the entire trip and had to cut his journey short at Cologne. Richard Myatt, in recreating and documenting the itinerary, will complete what Greene could only begin. Our story begins one chilly April morning on a railway platform in Belgium. Myatt, equipped with a Euro-Rail pass and a film crew, waits to embark.
Are we rolling? We are? Hi there! I'm standing on platform 3 of a pretty cold Ostend station, the beginning of our journey on the famed Trans-Europe Express. As you can see, this modern high-speed train is not exactly the same as the steam-powered express that Greene's character would have taken, but its itinerary is basically the same. Ostend, Cologne, Vienna, Belgrade, and last but not least, Istanbul, formerly Constantinople, the historic gateway to the Black Sea and the fabled riches of the East. We won't, of course, be exactly reliving the events of the novel, but rather recapturing its sense of adventure. We'll also be meeting one or two art world personalities along the way, artists noted for their appropriation, recycling if you prefer, of past culture and media, even events from their own lives. This should be, I think, particularly... Hold on a second, can we get this? Lady, excuse me, what's the problem?
Nothing, really. Look, I'm perfectly capable of carrying my own bag.
Hello, mademoiselle.
You're not getting a tip, you know.
Are we getting this? How about a few words for our film audience?
Not now, please.
Well, it doesn't look like this is a good time. Hopefully we'll get to talk to the young lady during the trip. Judging from those shapely legs, she looks like she might be a dancer. Like Coral Musker in Greene's book. Coincidence? Stranger things have happened. Anyway, before we set off, I'd like to let you in on a little secret. To make the trip more exciting and also capture some of the intrigue of the book, we decided it would be fun to carry a little contraband on board. This parcel I'm holding up to the camera contains a painting, a rather valuable painting, in fact. It's one of Monet's famous water lilies. It was stolen last year from the Marmottan Museum in Paris. Actually, I'm just kidding. It is a Monet, but it's a fake. It was repainted by New York artist Mike Bidlow, especially for this program. Bidlow has already recreated Picasso's Guernica and Warhol's soup cans. This is his first impressionist piece. Believe me, it looks just like the real thing, but not enough to get us into real trouble. At least I hope not. Let's get going. I'm freezing to death out here. It's lunchtime, and we're somewhere between Brussels and Liège. Things have changed quite a bit since Greene's book. Fewer fields and allotments, rather more smokestacks. I'm also not having much luck recreating Carlton Myatt's first meal. Not only is there no Chambertin 1923, but the veal tastes as fake as the bidlow.
Monsieur?
I'll have the fish and a bottle of Blue Nun. Still, we do have Pierre Menard joining us. Pierre's a French writer. Belgian writer who's currently rewriting a short story by the well-known Argentinian author Jorge Luis Borges. Pierre understands English but doesn't speak it too well. We can overdub in English in post-production, right? Okay. So Pierre, why rewrite Borges?
Ceci coûte 5 francs. Ce livre coûte 10 francs 50.
I discovered that Borges had written a short story about another Pierre Menard. This fictitious Menard wrote several books in the first part of the 20th century, but his magnum opus was a new version of Don Quixote.
A parody of Cervantes?
No, the Quixote.
The original book?
Not all of it, just a few pages, but they coincided exactly with the original.
Word for word?
Word for word.
That's pretty amazing. How did he do it?
He relived the life of Cervantes. He became the author of Quixote.
Wow! Blue Nun?
I only drink Burgundy.
Where's the Chambertin 1923 when you need it?
So, to immortalize both Borges and my own name, I decided to rewrite this story by recreating the life of Borges himself.
Isn't that pretty difficult? I mean, it must be rather schizophrenic.
Well, it would help if I could devote more time, but at least it's easier than rewriting Quixote. Borges' story is only 10 printed pages. Cervantes is several hundred.
Let me get this straight. You mean you're existing as Borges in your spare time?
Unfortunately, but what can I do? I have to work a day job to pay the rent.
But surely being half Borges and half Menard will interfere with recreating the book. It must color your prose style.
That's the challenge. Even the original Maynard couldn't avoid that. I'll be satisfied if I can exactly duplicate 1 or 2 paragraphs. At least I know my version will be better than the original.
How come?
Because, like Cervantes, Borges wrote in his own time and place. His style is somewhat archaic compared to my more contemporary phonetic rhythms. Besides, I write with the hindsight of history.
True.
Even Borges admitted that Maynard's Quixote was richer than Cervantes.
I'm sure it will be linguistically fascinating, but tell me...
Excuse me, could I borrow your sword?
Ah, our English dancer.
I beg your pardon.
Is she on camera? I'm still interested in that interview. Do you have any comment on the impact of post-structuralism on modern dance? What do you think of Lucinda Childs?
I never give interviews, and I hate Lucinda Childs. Thanks so much for the salt.
She hates Lucinda Childs. Interesting. Sorry about that interruption. So, Pierre, if you're reliving Borges' life in your spare time, you must need to be pretty selective.
True. I pick out certain periods and episodes that seem to be particularly important. Fortunately, I sleep much less than Borges, so I pick up quite a bit of time there.
But Borges is an Argentinian. Why are you traveling in Europe?
Borges spent much of his youth here. His grandmother was English, so I've been researching that part of his family tree in London.
Isn't Borges blind at this point? Surely you're not going to walk around in dark glasses for the rest of your life.
No, Borges' failing eyesight came later in life. When he wrote the story of Pierre Menard, he was still in his 40s. Once I complete that part of his life, that's it. End of project.
So, what do you see as your biggest challenge?
That's difficult to predict at this point. In Borges' time, I'm still an adolescent. It's well known that he was director of the Argentinian National Library for several years, so I presume I'll have to study library science.
Sounds pretty boring.
Not really, if I get to be as well-read as he is.
As Borges, what will be your biggest regret?
Not winning the Nobel Prize for Literature.
But you're still in the running as Pierre Menard.
Yes, but it's all very political. One tends to be judged on persona. I'd have a much better chance if I was Sartre or Beckett.
As Sartre, you could win it, then refuse it.
The ultimate literary put-down.
After Borges, then what?
Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer.
Good choice. I wish you luck with it.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.
Liège, Maastricht, Aachen. The express rolls inexorably into Germany, crosses the Rhine, and we make our first overnight stop in Cologne. With the Bidlow Monet safely under lock and key and left luggage, Myatt and his crew experience the stimulating heterogeneity of the local scene.
Cologne, or as the Germans call it, Köln. You've heard of it from Eau de Cologne, perhaps, or seen pictures of its famous double-spired cathedral. Reborn from the rubble of World War II, the city is now a flourishing industrial and artistic center, a unique mixture of old and new, of the conservative and the bizarre. Hi, what's your name?
Heidi.
What do you do, Heidi?
I paint neo-expressionist portraits of famous women Luftwaffe pilots.
Why are they hanging upside down?
They're not. They're painted upside down.
To make a sort of abstract statement of military feminist historiography?
No, because I can't sell them the right way up.
Wow, intense. You've been listening to Kölnische Sturmklan, a popular band on the club scene here in Cologne, and critically acclaimed for their extremely loud industrial noise. Band leader Wolfgang Klepper is with me now at his own Klunk Klink Studios. Wolfgang, how is your own brand of industrial noise different from that of other noise bands, like the old Throbbing Gristle or Einsturzende Neubauten?
It's different because we take pre-existing noise and play it backwards.
Why is that?
Whereas other bands create an environment that merely accentuates and reinforces the alienation created by advanced military-industrial societies in accord with strict Marxist-Leninist principles, we attempt to revise both history and its prevailing ideology by reversing and thus deconstructing its metaphorical deceits.
Really? We're making our way through the Cologne Kunstverein, where Josef Immerling, enfant terrible of the European avant-garde, is discussing one of his notorious installations. This dates Josef from the early 1980s?
Around 1980, yeah.
Josef, what's the significance of the woolen socks and smears of margarine along the walls?
These motifs in all my works I am including. From my student activist days in Berlin in the late 1970s, they are dating.
Iran? Afghanistan?
Nein! Der common market bottom mountain, the exorbitant price of ready-to-wear clothing, the poor quality of domestic record pressings.
So, would I be correct in saying that by quoting and appropriating these materials, you are creating a sort of index of consumer frustration and economic impotence?
Yeah, but the work very autobiographical also is.
How so?
Well, for example, I always wear the socks before I exploit them, aesthetically. Thus, every time in the morning I get dressed, or margarine instead of butter on my toast spread, it becomes a political and artistic statement.
That's really great. This is most definitely the life. A tasty lunch of beef rouladen, sauerkraut and potatoes, and a dark Dortmunder to wash it all down. Excuse me. We've had a quick sampling of some of the interesting things going on here. I'd have liked to interview our English dancer friend also. We saw her getting off the train, but she gave us the slip at left luggage. Just between you and me, I'm having definite second thoughts about the Bidlow Monet. The closer we get to the Eastern Bloc countries, the more I'm convinced we should have brought along blue jeans and polo shirts. We could have cleaned up in Bulgaria.
Is this train the Frankfurt special?
Frankfurt, Nuremberg, Linz. Myatt and his crew forge steadily eastward. Their route picks up the Blue Danube as it cuts between Bavaria and Bohemia. Mayet's growing unease about the Bidlow Monet is temporarily abated by the decision to remove it from its frame and roll up the canvas. Instead of looking like a plain-wrapped Monet stolen from the Marmottan, it now resembles an innocent poster or bolt of fabric. As the Orient Express pulls into Vienna, Mayet plots his next scoop.
In Green's novel, Vienna is the place where murderers, socialist revolutionaries, and innocent vacationers are tossed together into the narrative stew, stirred and seasoned for the final denouement. Vienna, that former jewel of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, is no longer the city of Baroque decadence of the 1930s, nor is it the bombed-out haven of post-war corruption, where opportunists like Harry Lime could flourish in illegal narcotics and watered-down penicillin. No, today's Vienna straddles past and present, east and west, in more ways than one. You like sushi with your Wiener Schnitzel? How about a Toyota engine in your VW? Vienna sounds like a very unlikely place to find the best in the Japanese avant-garde, but this small gallery 2 blocks from the Opera House really is a bona fide slice of the Orient, right here in Eastern Europe. Galleria Osaka represents a group of 6 Japanese conceptual artists who live and work in Vienna as a sort of Xerox art and language group. With me is the director of the gallery, Hiro Kobayashi. Hiro, explain the nature of the work shown here.
Well, Richard, as you mentioned, the work consists of Xeroxes, but not in the regular sense of composed or altered images. Our artists started out as art critics in Osaka. They made the transition to visual art by turning their reviews into actual artworks.
You mean they Xeroxed their reviews and hung them on the walls?
Yeah, except they're not reviews of other artists. They're imaginary reviews of works that don't actually exist. In this way, language acts as both art and its critique.
Okay, can we get in tight on this one here? That's good. From what I can tell, this particular piece is a review of a painting show by David Hiller at Mary Boone in New York.
Right. Although the gallery actually exists, of course, the artist is invented. Our writer, Kenzie Mizoguchi, no relation to the film director, incidentally, has created a series of paintings that draw upon elements of David Salle, L. Liszitsky, and George Stubbs, but placed it in a completely new neo-surrealist context.
Uh-huh.
This conceptual distancing through quotation allows him to underline the banality of painting in a world oversaturated with imagery.
Interesting. Is it written in any particular style or for a specific publication?
Oh, most certainly. This piece is written in a la art form. Its use of language and reference to metatext and semiotics places it firmly in that magazine's critical milieu. Here, however, Mizoguchi has covered the exact same show as if it had been reviewed by Norman Whiteside of the London Daily Mirror. Note the use of journalistic cliché and the complete lack of insight into the conceptual premise.
So what you're saying is that style and interpretation are more important than objects or images?
Partly, but you must remember that these texts are themselves visual pieces. They're a form of printed calligraphy, and quite beautiful, I think.
I agree. But why Xerox them? Doesn't that cheapen the work's integrity?
Not at all. It's a recognition that the work of art isn't sacrosanct. It's capable of being reproduced just like anything else.
Obviously, but
Artists were so used to being poorly paid for their criticism that they felt it was hypocritical for them to expect bigger rewards for making artworks which they consider intellectually inferior.
Excuse me, do you have a price list?
what on earth are you doing here?
I got lost looking for herons, you twit.
Each piece is the price of one Xerox copy. We have press kits on the desk over there.
Thank you.
You mean you just run off extra copies and give them away for a nickel?
Of course, but we're very careful to ensure that each copy spends at least some time on the wall. We sell everything with a certificate of authenticity to prove that it's been exhibited. We get a lot of piracy, you know.
I'm sure you do.
Now, what about this Art in America review of the post-minimalist group show at the Whitney?
That's by Kyoko Yonemoto. She wrote it in her late Clement Greenberg style. It's a good piece, even though it's a negative review.
I'll take it.
This is great. You could put together a sizable collection in no time, at negligible cost, too.
Precisely. You see, we're trying to undermine the notion of art object as commodity. We feel that artists shouldn't simply be making currency, but making aesthetic statements outside the marketplace. There, I just put new toner in this morning.
How much?
10 shillings.
Tell me something. If the artworks are merely reviews...
I wouldn't say merely.
What happens if the show actually gets reviewed by a magazine or paper?
Well, a couple of our people did get interviewed in Flash Art, and I know someone at ArtScribe is working on an article about Xerox art in Vienna, but that's something we prefer not to get into. Being ex-critics, artists have already compiled their own press kits. They review themselves for fictitious magazines.
I'd like to get on your mailing list, if I may.
Just sign the book over at the desk.
I'm confused. Surely this completely blurs the distinction between art and criticism.
Right.
But how do you make a profit if the pieces are virtually given away?
Oh, we all have other jobs. I do a little promotional work for European Sony. Many of our artists are working journalists. One is a tax preparer.
CPA?
Right. He can write off his entire output as a business expense. Also, the gallery has a low overhead. We pay rent, paint the walls once in a while, but the only extra cost is Xerox supplies and maintenance.
Amazing.
Thank you. I enjoyed the show.
Hey, wait a minute.
Pulling out of Vienna, Myatt began to think seriously about Xeroxing the Bidlow Monet and leaving the original behind in left luggage. Cooler heads prevailed, however. Budapest came and went without incident. At Subotica, on the Yugoslav border, the scene in Green's novel of tragedy and treachery, Richard Myatt stayed nervously in his compartment. He refused an invitation to afternoon tea from the Englishwoman, largely in order to keep a wary eye on the Bidlow Monet. As it turned out, the border guards were more interested in Calvin Klein and Ralph Lauren. Pretty soon, the train was pulling into Belgrade.
Hi. We haven't left the Blue Danube, but we've definitely left Western Europe. Welcome to Belgrade, historic capital of the Balkans. You're about to witness a screening of an extremely exciting video by well-known Yugoslavian performance artist Milena Dragic. Milena, looks like a good turnout.
Yeah, pretty good.
Tell us a little bit about the video. I understand it's part of an ongoing series.
Yeah, it is part of my Despots and Assassins cycle.
Despots and Assassins?
Yeah. I reenact key moments from the lives of famous dictators in history on videotape. Then I played the tape on large-screen TVs and blow up the VCR. It's a reaffirmation of the power of art to change the world.
So you're, in effect, playing the artist as both victim and assassin. Sounds dangerous.
Not really. It's theater. Lots of smoke and sound effects. People love it.
Well, who are you blowing up for us today?
Mussolini. Except it's more of a Fellini reinterpretation of Mussolini. In this way, I kill off fascism and post-war Italian cinema at the same time.
Sounds great. Let's go for it. We can cut in a copy of the tape later, right? No?
That's me.
With the shaved head and the boots?
Yeah.
Who's that on the right?
The Pope.
On the motorcycle?
Uh-huh.
Huh, that's a nice sight gag.
Thank you.
And what's happening here?
The Pope is giving Mussolini a ride through the ruins of ancient Rome, where they interrupt a group of Bacchic revelers watching a screening of Fellini's Satyricon.
Obviously, the allegorical fusion of history, cinema, religion, and politics.
Yeah, the decadence of ancient and modern Italy.
When do we blow it up?
Right now!
Wow! Oh my God. Cut! Let's get out of here!
But you missed the best part!
Much to Myatt's relief, no one checked their baggage or equipment at Belgrade Station. As the Orient Express sped through Bulgaria toward Sofia, Myatt's more extreme paranoid delusions had begun to subside.
Bulgaria! Our last country en route to Istanbul. Ireland's picturesque capital of Sofia.
Excuse me, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but I'm ready for that interview if you're still interested.
Well, finally. Take a seat. We can skip the touristy stuff and squeeze this in between Cologne and Vienna. No one will know the difference. So, we've been wondering where you're going and what you do. I would have guessed you're a dancer or an athlete.
Actually, I'm an international gymnast, but I am also Svetlana Kondrashinova, an undercover police officer with the KGB. You are under arrest for smuggling our valuable painting into a foreign country without proper authority.
Hey, wait a minute here. It's not a real Monet, it's a copy. It's...
Zino, it is an important beetle, one of his few impressionist pieces. It will be a valuable addition to our Hermitage Museum. Stop filming! Guards! Guards!
It's only a fake, for Christ's sake!
And there, I'm sorry to say, this week's episode of Appropriate Theatre comes to an end. Join us next week when we'll look at Bob Hughes' new film, an interesting revisionist remake of Citizen Kane, with Brat Pack stars Rob Lowe, Anthony Michael Hall, and Molly Ringwald as Susan Alexander. This is Decameron Book, bidding you a very good night.
Journey Without Straps was written by Colin Gardner. The players were George McGrath, Phil Hartman, David Maples, Tress McNiel, and Smorgas Borga. Production assistant, Wendy Oida. Technical production by Lorraine Wilcox. Journey Without Straps was produced by Steve Prophet.
The executive producer for the Territory of Art is Julie Lazar. Senior producer, Steve Rath, Murray Street Enterprise. Production manager, Steve Prophet. Mastering engineer and technical consultant, Chris Solom. Series theme music by Bob Telson. Production facilities provided by 52nd Street and KUSC, Los Angeles. Funds for the Territory of Art were provided by the Polaroid Corporation on the occasion of its 50th anniversary, the Rockefeller Foundation, the American Public Radio Program Fund with the assistance of the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts. The Territory of Art is a production of MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, Los Angeles, which is solely responsible for its content. For cassette copies of the program or additional information, write MoCA Radio, 250 South Grand Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90012. Join us next time when we meet three very different people who illustrate the diversity of culture in the Lone Star State. The program is called Texas Portraits. Next time on the Territory of Art. I'm Eric Bogosian. This is the American Public Radio Network.